Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, man, I know I say this a lot, but I got another big list of topics to discuss with you guys. So, tonight is a big night. Today's a big day. We have had a number of things happening in the wrestling community today. One of which was Wrestle Kingdom. Now, for those of you that don't know, Wrestle Kingdom 17 was today, January 4th, and we had quite a number of matches. And, well, they did not disappoint. And, now, I didn't get to talk about this. I was going to talk about this a little more and give my thoughts and opinions on if it's going to happen, but I didn't realize how early Wrestle Kingdom was starting. And so, it looks like I'm a little late in terms of in terms of giving my predictions. So what we saw at Wrestle Kingdom 17 was, first off, it was very shocking. So during the women's match, we saw a major return to not Japan, but to the entirety of professional wrestling. For those of you that don't know, I believe it was back in around May, maybe, I think it was May, somewhere around there. After April, maybe around May, Sasha Banks and Naomi had left the WWE. They had marched into John Laurinaitis' office, who was the head of talent relations. They put their tag titles on the table and they walked out. Well, boys and girls, it finally happened. Sasha Banks has officially made her return to the pro wrestling scene. We've been hearing all about it. There were rumors that we were going to see Sasha Banks come back to WWE and she was going to be in the Survivor Series War Games. There were rumors that Sasha Banks was going to come back to WWE at a later date. There were rumors that Sasha Banks was going to go over to Impact Wrestling. There were rumors that Sasha Banks was going to go over to AEW. Well, rumors no more. People were saying that Sasha Banks was set to make an appearance at Wrestle Kingdom 17. Well, she didn't just make an appearance. She effing showed up, ladies and gentlemen. At Wrestle Kingdom 17, well, after Kairi successfully defended her IWGP Women's Championship, Sasha Banks did the unthinkable, and she returned. Not only that, I think it's safe to say Sasha Banks is going to be challenging Kairi very soon for the Women's Championship, from the looks of it. Sasha Banks shaking hands with Kairi, cutting a little promo on Kairi, and then attacking Kairi with what is a very intricate finishing maneuver, if that's what you want to call it. It's a move I've never seen before, and I'm invested in it for sure. Now, I'm not going to go over the entire results of Wrestle Kingdom 17. This is simply due to the fact that I don't know every wrestler that wrestled, and so I can't give proper commentary. I will go over the matches that I know and was aware of and was excited for. And yes, I do follow Japan. I do follow New Japan. It's not like I don't. It's more so that I'm not fluent with it as much as I am, say, that of AEW or Impact or WWE. So it's not something I can give as fluent of a commentary on. However, that being said, I want to talk a little more on this Sasha Banks thing. Sasha Banks returning is huge, right? I don't think anyone really thought it was going to happen. I mean, when I was told about her possible return at Wrestle Kingdom 17, everyone in the comments, as well as myself, were pretty much saying the same thing, that, we didn't think it was going to happen. We thought it was rumors, like people were saying, and that, don't believe everything you hear. Because, for a while everyone was saying that Sasha Banks was going to come to WWE again, or she was going to go to AEW, or Impact. But no, she went to Japan. And people were saying that mainly because she had She had said, a long time ago that she wanted to wrestle down in Japan. I think that was her end goal, was always Japan. And so I'm happy for her. Honestly, I think her return to Japan is better than anything she could have done in that of AEW or Impact. And I say that just because I feel like Japan is going to understand her and get her a lot more than any other company. I think New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be a great fit for Sasha Banks. Now, I won't talk about Naomi yet. I won't bring up anything about Naomi because I don't know anything about Naomi. Nothing was mentioned about Naomi, but it is safe to say Sasha Banks is officially back in the world of professional wrestling, and it's even safer to say that maybe very soon we will potentially see Sasha Banks with the IWGP women's title around her waist. Now, looking at what was one of two major main events for Wrestle Kingdom 17, we saw two major title changes, one of which was the IWGP United States Championship, Kenny Omega defeating the current champion Will Ospreay to win his second IWGP US title. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kenny Omega is the inaugural IWGP US champ. He was the first man to ever win the IWGP US title. And he has not been in Japan since the start of AEW. Like, we have not heard or seen Kenny Omega in Japan at all since AEW had started. And I think Kenny Omega coming down to Japan while still doing what he's doing with AEW and working with that of the Elite and fighting Penta and Ray Fenix and Pac, I think it's very I think it's great. I think it shows the importance of Kenny Omega. I think it shows the resiliency, and I think it shows his heart for this business. Now, all that being said, I will admit I'm a little disappointed that Will Ospreay didn't get the win. I am a major Will Ospreay fan, as I think many people are, and the reason I wanted Will to win was because I don't know how many people know this, but Kenny Omega has never lost to Will Ospreay. I do believe they fought before, potentially on Japan, but for those of you that don't know, they actually fought in the independent circuit a long time ago, and Kenny Omega also won there as well. And the reason I say I really wanted Will to win is because I just think Will Ospreay is an incredible talent, and seeing him as the IWGP US champ, I think that's great, and I would have loved to see him run a little longer as IWGP US champ. And it's not that I'm disappointed that Kenny won, not in the slightest. I think Kenny Omega is a great wrestler. I love Kenny Omega. But I think I would have rather seen Will Ospreay win, just because I feel like Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega have that great story of Will Ospreay being the underdog. And I also think they have that great story of Will Ospreay's been here, right? He's always been in Japan. He's been wrestling for Japan while Kenny's been gone with AEW for how many years. And so it's that story of the hero, like almost like the Japan hero that's been gone comes back. But this is Will's home now, and he's going to defend his home. And so I think it would have made good sense, and I think it could have been very well possible for Will Ospreay to beat Kenny Omega. But I'm also hoping that this isn't the end of Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega. I hope we get to see that match happen again someday. Now, as for the second main event, the second major title switch that I was talking about, we saw Kazuchika Okada defeat Jay White. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I only usually refer to him as Okada, not his full name. So we saw Okada defeat Jay White for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. I have mixed feelings towards this. I'm pleased in the sense that I think Jay White had what was a very long and very great run as IWGP Heavyweight Champion. However, the reason I have mixed feelings towards it is I'm a little disappointed that they chose Okada to win, considering Okada was the previous champ. I prefer that of someone new to the, bring someone new to the table, bring someone else into it. I think a number of wrestlers could work. I think if you brought it, maybe even if you brought in someone from that of AEW, if you brought in someone from even from Japan, maybe if you, I mean, even look at a bunch of wrestlers really. Even if you looked at maybe uh, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know a bunch of Japan wrestlers. Even if you brought in, now I know they might not do this because I believe his contract is up and he might never come back to New Japan. And again, I'm not fluent in like my knowledge with New Japan isn't incredibly strong, so I'm sorry if I say this wrong. But even if they brought back Kota Ibushi, like I know, yes, Kota Ibushi's career right now with Japan is not current. Like his New Japan contract is not current. But as far as I know, but at least I think it would be nice to see Kota Ibushi versus Jay White. I think it would be nice. I don't know. It would be nice to see a change of pace with the IWGP Heavyweight title. I think Jay White as IWGP champ was a great run, but I also think Okada had a great run as IWGP champ. So why not give it to someone else? Give someone else a great run. But all in all, I think Wrestle Kingdom 17 performed very well with everything I just mentioned, with the return of Sasha Banks, Kenny Omega winning against Will Ospreay, and Jay White losing the title. I think all three of those were great in the sense that I think all three of those scream headlines. Not even for Kenny and Okada, not even them winning the titles, but just the idea of the matches that they had. I mean, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega was a major player match, as was Jay White versus Okada. Now, I'm also seeing, I've also saw that FTR lost the IWGP tag titles. Now, I love FTR, and I think FTR is a great tag team. Unfortunately, they no longer have any belts in their possession. And that is very unfortunate, and I don't know where to go from there with them, just due to the simple fact that they lost their Ring of Honor tag titles, they lost their AAA tag titles, they lost their IWGP tag titles, and what's even worse is they lost their titles so close to one another, like, it's like, can these guys catch a break? And so I don't know what the game plan is here. Maybe we'll see a singles run from a certain Dax Hardwood or Cash Wheeler, I don't know. But either way, I guess I was just expecting maybe a little bit more. And I know, obviously, yeah, I know that's not what we got, but I was expecting just a little bit more. With their run as this great tag team that they are. They are a great tag team, win or lose, but I think, like, the titles don't make the team, but I do feel as though on AEW, and I think people can agree with me on this, on AEW the titles do make the team. AEW really only focuses on really high-class wrestlers or wrestlers with titles, and even then, it's really the wrestlers with titles that AEW focuses on in terms of if you're going to be treated the correct way. Now, speaking of AEW, kind of switching over from Wrestle Kingdom 17 over to AEW, I know I didn't really talk much about AEW here lately. I will talk about AEW tomorrow. I will talk about, like, the results of Dynamite. The reason I'm not giving predictions for tonight like I did with NXT and Monday Night Raw is because, unfortunately, this episode is probably going to air right before or right after Dynamite comes to a close, and so I don't want to give my predictions right after, and so instead, tomorrow's episode will be me discussing the results, as well as a number of other topics regarding to that of professional wrestling. Now, we did just talk about a major thing with Wrestle Kingdom 17, and we discussed a number of different things. Three major title changes, with the tag titles, with the U.S. title, with the heavyweight title. Now, And I'm sure that there might have been other title changes. The reason I'm not including those is because I don't know of the matches. To be quite honest with you, I don't know full and well about all the wrestlers and all the titles there are. I'm really only focused on the main parts of the match card, and the reason I'm considering FTR a main part is simply just because of their prestigiousness as a tag team, and the fact that it's not the junior tag titles, it's the the IWGP, it's the main tag titles for New Japan. That's the reason I'm like very focused on this. Now, I'm gonna kind of transition over to NXT last night. Now, I didn't watch NXT last night, unfortunately. I didn't catch most of it. However, I do know what transpired between Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker, which I talked about a little bit yesterday. I think Grayson Waller, in line for the NXT Championship, is a semi-interesting idea. I think it's certainly something that I think could be considered long-term storytelling. Now, last night, from what I've seen so far, last night was very intriguing. Braun Breaker seems to have went through another level up, I guess, with that of Grayson Waller. Now, I am going to go on a bit, not a rant, but I am just going to kind of complain about this real quick. Why is it every time there's a guy who is a little bigger in size, they have him jump over the top rope at some point? We've seen it with Roman Reigns. We've seen it with Wardlow. We saw Undertaker do it a number of times. And now Braun Breaker. I am getting very annoyed by the fact that again and again I am seeing nothing but these bigger and bigger guys jumping over the top rope. And I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm saying the way they're doing it, they're not really even doing it in that of a match. They're doing it more so to prove a point. And I think it just gets stale at a certain point because it's like, okay, well, what can't you do then? You know, they try to make these guys seem invincible, and that's my complaint towards it, because it's like, first of all, how could Braun Breaker be invincible on that of a developmental product? Because that's what they do on NXT nowadays. They make you look invincible, and then they put you, like, they used to do that back when it was Black and Gold, too. They would make you as hot can be in NXT. And then you would go up to the main roster, and it was like you were knocked down several pegs. And the reason I disagree with that is because, honestly, I think especially back then, with Black and Gold and stuff, I think NXT was way hotter than any of the wrestling that the main roster was performing. And so I think that, if anything, it should have been the other way around. But it wasn't. And so I'm just a little annoyed with the idea of Braun Breaker, because I obviously, with Triple H in charge, if Braun goes over to the main roster, I'm sure he won't be knocked down a couple pegs, but I'm getting tired. My complaint with it now, with it being 2023, is that nowadays in the WWE, if you're invincible, you don't stop being invincible. I mean, look at Roman Reigns. Look at Solo. Look at the entirety of the Bloodline. I can't think of a single one of them that has not been unstoppable. You know what I mean? Since the moment they joined the Bloodline. Now, trying to transition from my rant here, essentially what I'm trying to say is Braun Breaker jumped over the top rope and performed a dive to Grayson Waller. Now, Braun Breaker proved his point, and going into NXT New Year's Evil, next Tuesday, we will see Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller for the NXT Championship. And I think that is a very important match to have. I think that Grayson Waller is an intriguing character. I think he's an intriguing wrestler. Although part of me hopes that he is not the guy to beat Braun Breaker. Personally, I don't want him to be that guy. Now, transitioning over to the women's division, we did see a number of women's wrestlers come out to try and, I guess, get a shot for the NXT women's title. Out of all those wrestlers, I've said it to myself before, and I'll say it here on this podcast now, the wrestler that deserves that out of the entire NXT Women's Division, more than anyone in my opinion, is Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell, from what my knowledge is, she is the longest woman right now that is still in the NXT Women's Division right now, that is a single star, and that is performing the way she is performing. Put her in it. I think down the line you could put Cora Jade in there for the NXT Women's title. Let me put it this way. With Roxanne Perez as NXT Women's Champion right now, I think she should fight someone. Her first fight should be someone that deserves the title, but also someone that is still kind of an underdog, such as Indy Hartwell. And the reason Indy's still an underdog is because she hasn't been getting the proper screen time nor the wrestling time to truly cement herself. So right now she could still very well be considered as an underdog. I also think Cora Jade should go in there at some point and fight Roxanne Perez because of their history, and because I think that could be a great long-term build-up story. You know what I mean? Same with, I think the one, like, if they had to pick someone to take the title from Roxanne Perez at some point, there's two people that come to mind, and that is Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark. And I say that because both those women have something that I think is very special. And I think especially Nikita Lyons has not fought for the NXT Women's title yet. And I think I think going into a match with Roxanne is going to really make or break that with her. I think her and Roxanne would match up well, and I think they honestly could put on a very, very great match. Same with Zoe. I think especially after Zoe's last match with Mandy Rose, I think Zoe Stark versus Roxanne Perez would be very entertaining. It would be very well done. I think it could very well be match of the night on whatever pay-per-view or whatever. I think it could be a potential match of the year depending on when they do it. And I think, honestly, out of the two I just named, I think the more obvious choice to take the title would be Zoe Stark, because right now she's heel and she's fought for the NXT Women's title before, and with both of those variables put together, it makes her one of the perfect candidates, because not only is she heel, but she has a bit of a vengeance story in wanting to get the NXT Women's title in her possession. And that is something that I think Triple H can see as great storytelling, and I think, which I mentioned in a previous episode, I think once they get William Regal into the mix, and they get him back into his position as general manager, or not general manager, but back into whatever position he was in NXT, and they get him the vice president role of all of WWE, I think he'll be running the show very well, and I think he'll be able to perform his duties to the point where he can make some of the best matches possible. And I think if he does this right, and knowing his creativity and his mind of pro wrestling, I think he'll definitely be able to do something with the women's division for sure, especially with this idea of Zoe Stark and even Cora Jade. I think the way his mind works, I think he can certainly bring an edge to the game here, which would be great. It would be amazing. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, that is essentially tonight's episode. I know it wasn't a lot. It was really just Wrestle Kingdom 17 and NXT. But again, I look at it as various number of topics, because we discussed a little bit about the Will Ospreay Kenny Omega match. We discussed a little bit about the Okada and Jay White match. And we discussed a little bit about Sasha Banks' return. And I'll say it again. Sasha Banks' return. So I didn't say this earlier, but I'm not the biggest Sasha Banks fan. But I am glad to see her return. I'm intrigued by it, and I'm hoping, honestly, I want her to beat Kairi, because I know she just came in and she's new, but, like, I want her to go straight for that women's title, take that, and maybe, like, I just want to see them really do something here, and just, like, that would completely take me back and completely entertain me 100%. And before I end the episode here, I am just going to give a quick update. There's still no official release, no official statement yet on if Seth Rollins was really injured on Monday. And as far as I am aware, it's safe to say that it could potentially be a work, but it's also safe to say that it could potentially be true. As far as I'm aware, there's no official statement. I could be wrong. I haven't kept fully up to date. I just checked earlier today and I didn't see an official statement. But I also didn't check any social media platforms to see if Seth Rollins himself had issued a statement, so maybe. But I didn't see anything yet in terms of any WWE newsletters or anything like that, or any pro wrestling articles in general have not mentioned anything of Seth Rollins giving out any information or any information in general, other than the fact that it may or may not be kayfabe, and this could be a potential injury and could very well hurt Monday Night Raw, considering the loss of AJ Styles due to his broken ankle. But all in all, if Seth is injured, best wishes, and if he's not, well, then let's hope they give him something, a new storyline coming up soon, and maybe take him out of the theory thing for a little while and give him something maybe a bit of a step up. But either way, I'm just honestly I'm very happy with the way things are going for that of professional wrestling, for the world of professional wrestling, that is. And ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. May you have a great rest of your evening. Sorry this one was a little late, but it's here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.